Good morning all, and welcome again to another video. I'm speaking to you today from the depths of Sherigano, and I am going to actually use today the notion of props to help you solve programming algorithms. Now, it's not necessarily this prop is going to solve every programming algorithm, but it's the notion of using props. So, one of the most common tasks that beginner programmers get asked to do is the generation of random numbers, but also then to generate random numbers that will be unique within a set. So, a bit like the National Lottery, you can only generate one of the top 42 numbers once. If you generated it twice, there might be a few questions. So, looking here at my highly technical props, very highly technical here. Number one, I have a dice. Yes, indeed. Six-sided. We no expenses spared here. Number two, this tube here. Now, I'm only using this for the video so that at least I'll be able to demonstrate the dice very succinctly and visually. Number three and number four, two bowls. Ooh. Now, I might not use these, okay? But they're two ornery bowls that I got from my kitchen. Number four, a pen. Number five, a piece of paper. What I always say to my classes, get writing. Okay? And number six, we might use some masking tape. No, don't worry, we won't harm anybody. So, what basically I'm just going to do is this, is I'm going to generate some kind of mechanism that will ensure that if I wanted to generate three numbers from this dice, three goes and three separate numbers, but they must remain unique. Okay? Now, there's several ways to do that. But my point is that through the use of props, we can now visualize what we're trying to do, and therefore then we should be able to translate that into code. Now, I am going to translate it into code very, very soon. So, first things first, okay, I am going to use my highly technical dice roller. So, whoa, nearly lost it there. And we stop. And we turn to the camera to show you that it is a 2. Now, I have got 2 or 3 options I can do. Number one, I could write the number 2. Okay, I could write the number 2 there. You can see there, number 2, not great. I wasn't great at writing. And I could throw it into one of the bowls. Okay, now I could also throw it into the other bowl. Because it's the first number, right, I could throw it in either of the bowls. I could use these 2 bowls, right? Okay, I could use this bowl to store all the numbers that I want to keep, and this bowl here to store the numbers as I generate them. But then a little subtle kind of trick of, as I generate the number, I do put it into the bowl, right? And before I add it to the bowl where I want to store the numbers that I finally generated, I check this bowl first and see if the number that I'm generating has been already generated, and if it is, don't generate it again. Okay? Alternatively, I could just use the piece of paper. Okay? Now, there is another way, one more way, the masking tape. I generated the number 2, all right? So what I could do is, if I wanted to, okay, I'm not going to do this, but very, very easy, take off a bit of the masking tape and cover that dice side. So if I do roll it again, 2 will not show up. Okay, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do it the very, very simplest way of as follows. Remember what I said. I want to generate 3 numbers. So what I could do is use my piece of paper, right? And that's there. So I'll generate my second number. Here we go. Where it stopped, no one knows. And it stopped at 5. So what do? I either check this or my piece of paper to see if 5 has been generated already. Okay, now what I should have done initially was said, okay, 2 is in the final list. Okay, generated list. So I check for 5 in these two lists. Sorry, I've written down 5 already, but I see it's not in the generated list, so I will put it in the generated list and move it across. We'll copy it across. Okay, so hopefully now, and we generate our next number, and we've generated our next number, which is a tiny bit of manipulation here. You can see clearly, okay, it's 2. So what do? I check my generated list. Uh-oh, 2 is in the generated list. So therefore then, do I copy it across? I don't. Okay, but what do I do instead? I say to myself, okay, I must do a counter of how many numbers I need to generate. So if this is my third go, right, I say to myself, I haven't generated a number, so can I take that go again? Yes, I can. Now, in coding, that's just a loop. So, we'll do this, and we go. Oh, look, we have the number 3. We check our generated. 2, 5, 3 is not there. 3. Our counter for our final list was decremented on the second last go there, but now we increment it again because it's okay, and there we have our 3 numbers. It's not so much the point of this particular solution, but it is really to the point that use props when you are coding. Now what I will do now in a couple of seconds is show this in code. Hey, welcome back folks to our random number generator. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to align the props to code. So looking here at our screen, line 9 here, okay, whatever about being on this side, the left hand side, it's on the right hand side realistically what does the magic. And in here, okay, we use what is known as a function from a class called Math. And what that Math.Random does, it generates a number, right, between 0 and 1. So effectively, let's say it generates 0.55. We multiply that by 6. That's 3.3. And then we add 1, so that becomes 4.3. Now you might say to yourself then, why do we have this int there? That's so then the 4.3 is rounded off to 4. Okay? And that generates a random number. So if I run this now, and if I printed it out there on line 10, okay, we can see it generates 5. So if I run it again, it generates 2. But let's just put it this way. Supposing if I randomly generated, and in this case, or for our example, okay, for int I, 3 times, okay, int I is equal to 0, I is less than 3, okay, I plus plus. Alright, so then if we encompass what we need with our curly brackets and run that. Now, my main point that I really wanted to show here is that even on the first go, we generated duplicates. Alright, and obviously we don't want that in certain situations. A lottery. Even roll of a dice, or even if you're picking out names from a hat for a draw, you don't want the same person coming out 2 or 3 times because there might be ruminations of it being fixed. So what this is actually, this line here is kind of the roll of the dice. So we roll that, okay? So ultimately, yes, we want 3 values. And like Yahtzee or anything like that, we want to show those values at the end. So what I'm going to actually do here is set up an array of 3 spaces, okay? And let's just say we'll call it numbers generated. Always call your variables by their full name, okay? Is equal to new int, and let's just say 3. So that array there will store the values, okay? Store the final generated values, whether they be well, we do go through the duplicate process to get rid of any duplicates, store the final values. So what we actually need to do is as such is have some other mechanism like we have here, okay? So the numbers generated, and then if we go through this and if it comes up twice there, okay, we won't move across the corresponding number to the other place, to the other storage point, in this case numbers generated. So what we actually need to do is place some code in here that before we do actually move it into the array called numbers generated, we do a small bit of a check, okay? So there are several ways of doing this. Now the way that I'm proposing is just one kind of unique way, because it kind of cuts down a lot on going through a shadow array and so forth like that. So what I'm actually going to use is an array of booleans, okay? And basically, if I was to draw this out like this, I know that I have 6 numbers. So let's put it this way. A Boolean array always starts off with values of all the booleans set to false. So what I'm going to do is very, very simply, okay, if the number is generated, okay, and if it isn't already allocated, okay, I can allocate it by checking through this second array, okay. And what I will do then, sorry there, no, I'm just doing this for completion's sake, okay. What I will do is I just call up the corresponding value. So supposing if I generated the number 1, by the use of manipulating a tiny bit of the variables, I'll just check for the first position. If it's false, I know it's fine. I can place that into the array, because I know this flag, for want of a better word, has not been set to true. And there's 6 values because I can do from 0 to 6. Okay, that's one way of doing it. It is a bit more, there's a tiny bit more thinking in it, but I've been looking at other ways of doing it, and I think this one is quite okay. And I'll show you how it operates now. Is simply, okay, I'm creating a Boolean array. Now this is not the only way, obviously, but my point is through the use of props. Alright, let's just say for argument's sake, I'll do this now out Boolean. Okay, Boolean is already generated. I'm going to give that name is equal to new Boolean, okay, and size of 6. So basically, no matter how, you know what I mean, numbers or whatever, and each one of those numbers correspond. If number 5 has been done, so position 4 within is already generated, it should be set to true, and then that will stop that being generated again. Okay, so all I just need to do here then, okay, is check if, okay, is already generated, right? And let's just say current random number -1, because remember, arrays and everything starts at 0, so we're kind of looking 1 back. Okay, now it won't really matter for the first one, because obviously that, but every other subsequent one, every other subsequent generating of a random number, it will matter. But what we do is quite simple as this. If that's equal to false, we know that number hasn't been allocated yet. So now what we can do is say, okay, put it into the final array. Okay, numbers generated I, okay, is equal to current random number. Okay, but then, right, there is one thing we do need to do. Okay, is already generated. Okay, now we need to say, oh, you are now taken. Okay, -1 is equal to true. So, whoops. So what that will do then is it will basically say, okay, I've now filled up, let's just say if we randomly generate, and let's just say if we randomly generate the number 3. So what actually happens is, alright, 2 is set to true. So then next time we come around and we look for that value, and if it's set to true, we skip over it. But obviously then, what I did say before then was that, hang on, that's all grand and fine. But what happens otherwise? In other words, that we have actually hit a true value. Well, if we'd hit a value that is already generated, okay, and we know that we've only got 3 values, what we need to do is take that go again. Okay, so you're kind of saying, hang on a second, I've only got 3 kind of shots at this. So it's kind of saying, okay, take that go again. Go on, take that go again. Here is the thing, is I is really our counter. And we're going to be generating the random numbers until I gets to 3. So basically, to take the go again, we do I minus minus. In other words, just take the go again. So that's all grand and honky-dory, and we've generated all random numbers, and you can see there the end of the for loop and so forth like that. But what I just need to do at the very, very end is obviously see if those values are okay. Alright, so what I can do outside of the for loop, outside of the random generating technique, I can just basically print out the array values. And the quickest way to print out array values is use the arrays class, right, and use the toString method. Okay, and in this case here, numbers generated, and that will print out just the values of that array. Okay, so if I run this now, before I will even do this, okay, I will just put in something here. Okay, SOUT and duplicate. Okay, and we'll be able to see the duplicate value being duplicated, and then, you know what I mean, not being put in, but then at the very end then we'll see all unique values. So we run this here. Okay, we're kind of lucky enough there, 1, 4 and 3, 5, 2 and 6, 4, 5 and 6. This is not looking too good. 1, 6 and 4. Okay, keep on going. 5, 3 and 4. Okay. Let's wait now until it does. There we go. Okay. 3, 1, 3, duplicate, 5. So the duplicate is found. We take that go again, and it's 5. Okay, I'll just see if that will run again. Okay, 5, 1, 3. You can see there 6. Okay, you can see there then that we're getting rid of duplicates as we go along, and actually as we do go along, duplicates become more and more common. Okay, you can actually see there 3 is generated 3 times, but you can see there that the values are unique. Now I will place this code in with the description, and I hope if anything, it is useful to do a tiny bit of work with the use of props or writing out and so forth like that. Okay, and be a tiny bit lateral thinking about things. So until the next video, take care, keep coding, and if there's any questions, leave them in the comments or send them on an email or whatever. Okay, take care and have a good one, and adios.